Welcome to the Rogue Radiance podcast, where we're going rogue on conventional health ideologies to embrace a holistic perspective to help guide you towards living your most radiant life from the inside out. I'm Jaime, your host, a functional nutritionist and holistic wellness crusader. Join me as I delve into a vast array of topics within the realm of health and wellness that includes captivating conversations with extraordinary individuals from every corner of the industry. My mission is to not only inform, but also inspire you. Each episode is designed to help you learn more about the power that you have over your own health so that you can take daily actions that will create a lasting impact. With that said, I want to emphasize that the information provided in the show is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional and personalized medical advice, so please seek the help of your qualified healthcare provider with any questions. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, Erin. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited to get to interview you today. Brief intro. Erin and I are from the same hometown and we have known each other since middle school. And with the way social media is today, I feel like even though we haven't actually talked in many, many years, I feel like I've really been able to see what you've been up to with your beautiful family, just from watching your stories and your posts. So a couple years ago when you had posted that you were diagnosed with breast cancer, I was just totally floored because, we were in our mid 30s, and from following you, I see that you prioritize holistic health. And so I just feel like this goes to show, especially in today's world of toxicity and stress, that cancer can really happen to anyone at any age. So with that said, I'm super excited to talk to you about your journey since getting your cancer diagnosis and how you took an integrative approach to healing from it. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, we can then dive into some questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, it is so crazy because like to your point, you can keep in touch with someone on social media and kind of see like life happening. I was not going to share my cancer diagnosis. I was like really, really nervous to share it. I was almost shamed because I did live a healthy lifestyle, but just a little bit about myself. My name's Erin. I'm 38 years old. I have 3 kids and I'm married. We live in Boise, Idaho. And 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, ER, PR positive, HER2 negative. And when I was originally diagnosed, I really didn't do anything about my diagnosis. I ended up going to Boston for the summer and kind of thinking like, oh, I'll deal with this. But in August, close to like 18 months ago, August 2022, I did a full body scan and it showed that the cancer had spread to my spine and pelvis. And so that's when I sort of had to get to work. I guess like for me, I started sharing this journey authentically, and through like my mess, I created a really big message through the internet on Instagram. And so I have been cancer free for 18 months. And kind of have through this journey gotten healthier than ever. I kind of felt like before I was dipping my toe in the sand. But yeah, so I've just been utilizing like multiple different modalities to heal. And just tap into like my higher self to make myself the healthiest version of myself.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I can tell from, the amount of comments you get and like how quickly you did grow on Instagram. Like this resonated with people. There are so many women out there, whether you've been diagnosed with cancer or not, who are interested in this because we all have been touched by someone who has, some sort of cancer. And you definitely get the good with the bad. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are not super stoked on the things that you're saying, but I think that's a good sign. When people get defensive, it's because it resonates with them a little bit. And the reality is that yes, anyone can get cancer at any time, but there's so much that we have the power, within ourselves to try to avoid it or heal from it. And yes, it's not always going to work, unfortunately, but why not at least try? So I love that you're, kind of shaking things up by making people aware of, hey, these are all the other things that we can be doing to make our body, basically it's like a terrain, right? Like your body's an
Yes.
ecosystem, and we need to make it as healthy as possible so it can fight and it can heal, right? So
Yes.
okay, so how did you decide, like, or I should say, how did you decide that you were going to take this integrative approach rather than just doing like the standard care model?
So if we backtrack to like how this all started, I
Mhm.
was nursing my third child. And I always joke to my husband, I'm gonna nurse her until this gets awkward. Like she's our last baby, like, and no stopping. And one day she just like stopped. It was just like a full blown stop. And so when everything kind of like went back to normal, I found a lump on my chest. And I thought it was like a clogged duct. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was like, okay, well, I've had clogged ducts before, so I didn't think anything of it. But I kept finding it, like it wasn't going away. And so I was like trying to work on it, and my husband's like, maybe you should go get it checked out, why not? So I called my PCP, and I hadn't talked to her since I gave birth to my daughter. She was 16 months and she was on maternity leave. So I saw a nurse practitioner and she was like, okay, we'll pull some labs and we'll see, like, let's check it out. So she checks out, she's like, yeah, this probably is like a cyst. Your labs look excellent. Let's just like keep an eye on it. And I was like, well, like, that's it? Like, that's where we're going? And she's like, well, mammograms usually don't start until you're 40 and you're 35. And so I kind of had to fight for that.
Wow.
And I didn't even know like thermography existed. I didn't even know like what I was looking for, but I knew my mom was getting mammograms. So I was like, I need a mammogram. I need one. And so it took almost 6 weeks to get a mammogram.
Wow.
Um, and it wasn't covered by insurance, but I was like, I'm doing it. So I get the mammogram. It was not pleasant. And they were like, hey, there's some stuff that looks suspicious. We want to biopsy you. I didn't know like what I was getting into, but I didn't feel good about it. But I did it because I was scared. And so I do the biopsy, they biopsy 4 different spots, and sure enough, it comes back, it's malignant.
Mm.
From that moment, they were like, okay, like the series of events is this. You're gonna get surgery, and then you're gonna get radiation, and then you're gonna be on hormone blockers. And I'm like, excuse me? Like what? So right then and there, I knew I'm a pretty natural minded person anyway. So right then and there, I was like, I'm doing integrative. Like that is what I'm doing. And we started searching. And
Mhm.
thank God we have a really good friend who's a breast pathologist in Canada. And she studied under Nisha Winters, who is all about the metabolic approach to cancer, terrain supporting. And so she, although Cambridge standard of care, she had eyes on the case as like a full scope.
Wow.
And she was like, let's let's start going. Like she was like, she basically groomed me. And so I started calling different clinics in Arizona, Germany, Mexico, and I landed on a clinic in Orange County, California. And I made an appointment with her. And I was diagnosed in April, and I went and saw her at her first opening in May. She gave me after surgery instructions, and like I said in my intro, I didn't hear it. I went there and I was like, cool, thank you. Like, I'll figure this out. But she kept saying, I think you should do a full body scan because I keep seeing these young women come in with cancer and something's not adding up. There's something going on and cells are turning over fast and we need to see what's going on. We need a full scope of your body. So, like I said, I went to Boston and then in August when it spread, I knew I was integrative. I knew I was going to dabble in both worlds because I knew the only way for me to heal was to treat this like very seriously.
So you were seeing just like a regular oncologist in where you live, right, in Idaho?
Yeah, so I still have a regular oncologist. It's now my second one, but the first one I saw, I'll never forget. The mentor told me like, wear your bulletproof armor. They're gonna eat you alive.
Wow.
They're gonna scare you. And even with that warning, being in that hospital setting, I felt like I was like out for war. I mean, he basically like gave me a prognosis. It wouldn't put my youngest daughter into kindergarten before like an expiration date. Um, they told me that if I wasn't gonna do surgery, like they'd be seeing this all the time. If you don't do surgery, you're gonna come back or you're gonna be dead or it's gonna be this or it's gonna be that. And I get that he's doing his job and I get that he learned and he's wise, but it just didn't align with me. And so I try not to lean on him, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um because his words don't serve me. So I basically use him for things that I can get covered by insurance that benefit me. I kind of have to work the system in order uh to to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So, it sounds like your doctor in Orange County at the integrative clinic, she recommended the full body scan. Do you think that ever would have been done? Because that found like that it had metastasized, correct?
Yeah, no. And oddly enough, she said to me, like, you need to try to find a full body scan in Idaho. Like,
Mm.
ask your oncologist to order you a PET scan. And at the time, I was like, I don't want to do a PET scan. There's so many, like, that's radiation and it's this and that. And she's like,
Yeah,
okay, then see if they'll give you a full body MRI. I couldn't get him to order me one. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars to do it out of pocket. And so I ended up going to California to get it done. She had like a referral of a place and it showed spots, so then I took it to the oncologist and then he ordered me a PET scan, which then I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing a PET scan after all that. And it showed, lit up like a Christmas tree. And I don't think they would have offered it to me. They offered like, a couple lines of defense and they said, we'll make you comfortable if you're in pain. That was like his bottom line.
wow. I hear that so often, like people needing to fight for certain certain like services that really it just makes you so mad because you think like what if they hadn't have caught that it had metastasized to different areas in your body, your treatment then probably would have been completely different, and then who knows what could have happened. So
Oh, you're
that's
100% right. And I think that goes with any sort of like diagnosis. You have to be a self advocate because they're gonna give you what they learned, but like there's just
yeah,
so much more. Like you can heal in like a really beautiful way and not it doesn't have to be so harsh. And I do think about that often. Like, what if I would have done a bilateral mastectomy, which is what they wanted to do? And what if and then they wanted to do reconstruction. I was like, I don't align with that. But
yeah,
like what if I did all that, but then it was still in my bones? So then we do a scan after the surgery, and they're like, surprise, like it's there.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
so thankful that I like listened to her because I didn't listen to a lot when I was originally diagnosed, but I listened to that and that was like that was important.
Wow. That's crazy. And yeah, that's such a good point. Like we really do need to be our own advocates. And I think a lot of times people are intimidated when you go to the doctor because, we've been taught like they are a sort of God in some ways. And not to say that they aren't knowledgeable and they don't know what they're doing. It's just more of like, your body, and yeah, like what feels good to you. And if something doesn't feel right, also do a ton of research, but if something doesn't feel right, don't be intimidated to push and get what you think is best for you, because in the end it could literally save your life. So wow,
Yes.
that's very cool that you found this fantastic doctor in Orange County as well. I've been following your stories a lot, and I see you posting a lot about that clinic, and they seem to be doing a lot of really great work.
Yeah, they're very special. They have a lot of tech that like a lot of clinics don't have because I'm not sure like what the bill was when it passed, but it passed like 6 years ago and basically it was called like the right to try. So they have a lot of modalities that you can find in Europe or like Mexico that aren't FDA approved, but they're having like incredible success in other countries. And so the fact that they have these pieces of tech in place that they can like utilize to help people is unbelievable and lucky, really.
Wow. Well, and it's such a bummer. Like, why is it like we're seeing these other countries, they're having success with these different, types of treatments, and why are we so why is it so
Follow the
hard to find,
money.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Isn't that sad? It just like, oh, it drives me up a wall. That's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good reminder that, our medical schools are funded by pharmaceutical companies. The research that is most often available is funded by the drug companies. So that's why, again, back to that point of, be your own advocate, do your own research, because there's a lot of other information out there that that you can find to help, yourself have a more successful treatment plan than just like those three main things that they always want to do for cancer, which is what? Surgery, radiation, and chemo. It's like there's so much more. So, which we're going to talk about. So, what would you say? Let's see here. Where should I go with this? Let's talk about what would you say are like the three things, or not the three things. What specific approaches do you find were the best therapy or the most beneficial therapies, to help you? I know that you've done a lot, but what would you say are like the three most beneficial?
I know that's actually like a really loaded question, and people ask me that all the time because I knew when I was diagnosed, like I was throwing it all in the fire. Like I didn't care what it was, as long as that fire was getting burnt out, like that is what I was doing. But I think about like really important pieces of integrative care, and I think that like IVC is like high dose, dense dosing IVC, like 50 grams to 100 grams is really anti-cancer and pretty like underestimated in the world of standard care.
Okay.
I try to do IVs every week, and when I was like in active treatment, I was trying to do them twice a week. I think that I got really into frequency medicine. I think like biochargers, PEMS machines, like doing those kind of things to get frequencies right, to get your body, like you think of your body as like a circuit breaker, and like when circuits trip, like things don't go right. And so to just have those circuits like fire correctly, I think is pretty like underestimated. I did explore low dose chemo. Chemo doesn't kill the stem cells, but for me, on an integrative approach, they check your, like for breast cancer, they check what are called CA markers, and they're supposed. I don't know the exact number. I want to say like maybe it's supposed to be at 47, and another one's supposed to be like 37, and mine are like close to 1,000. So my integrative team was like, hey, listen, like you have disease marching through your body and it's looking for a home, so we need to get in front of it. And so implementing low dose chemo where like your good cells aren't getting killed but the bad cells are getting killed was pretty important in my like line of defense. I also think really underestimated is using repurposed drugs, whether that's like dewormers or like there's a ton of science behind using metformin as blocking certain pathways. There's a really great book called, it's by Jane McGlecklin, and it is called How to Starve Cancer. And there's some really great tools of certain off-label drugs that you can take that are super helpful to heal. And then I do think, and then if we're talking books, I think Nisha Winters, who I mentioned originally, she's got the metabolic approach to cancer, and I think that book is like a Bible. Like it is such a powerful read for someone with cancer or without cancer, or someone who's supporting someone with cancer. It talks about terrain, and we just mentioned that, and that's like the bread and butter to this book, and it is so impactful. My copy looks like it's from like a vintage store. It's got like tears and coffee stains and highlights. Like, I mean, I used it heavily.
Okay. Well, that would probably be good for anyone to read because metabolism, we think that it's just about like, oh, burning calories and burning fat. But metabolism is literally like how your body is breaking down toxins, and like literally almost every cellular process is some form of metabolism. So
Yes.
people really starting to understand that our metabolic health, it was talked a lot during COVID because it was like the people who were metabolically unhealthy were more likely to die from this or get really sick. But that goes to any sort of disease, illness, cancer, literally anything. It's like we need to be metabolically healthy. Our body needs to be able to heal cells, break cells down, remove toxins, so forth and so forth. So That's cool. I'm gonna have to definitely pick up that book. And when I create show notes for this, I'll make sure that I link to these books that you're mentioning. All right. So, okay. So you said low dose chemo, IV, or vitamin C, like high dose vitamin C IVs. Were you able to get those in Idaho, or were you having to come down to California to do
Yeah,
it?
so I have a like a really great team created here in Idaho, and so I was able to, or we were able to source the kind that I wanted because I wanted it to be non-GMO. I wanted it to be
Yeah.
corn free, and so we were able to source that. So I always just do it here at home. I don't do it in California, but they obviously offer that in California as well.
That's a really good point, and anytime that we're taking any sort of supplement, and especially like vitamin C, a lot of these supplements, the raw materials can be coming from pesticide ridden, foods. So, or they're completely synthetic, which sometimes is okay, but just really figuring out like where are these, supplements coming from is huge because you don't want to be putting more toxic crap into your body when you're trying to heal. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and then the other one was the frequency. I'm trying to think, like I've done sound healing before. Is that a form of like frequency
Yeah.
therapy? Okay. And then you had mentioned a couple other things, but I don't remember what you said something about like an something something machine. What
Yeah,
is
so there's something called a PEMF, and that's
yeah.
electronic magnetic field, and you
Okay.
can do that at a clinic. I have one at home. It has different like hertz for different healing frequencies. And then the biocharger, similar idea. It's like a PEM you lay on, and then a biocharger like this tower, and it has light, sound, PEM, and then frequencies. And so you can say like, they have like thousands of recipes, and so you could say like you wanted the earth pulse as one of your things, or you want a detox, or you want breast health. And so there's all these different recipes, they call them, that imprint into your body. And so I feel like that has been really helpful. I didn't always do those in like the beginning, but now that I'm like on the other end, I feel like it's so important to like protect that terrain. There's that word again, but like
Mhm.
protect it and like protect it fiercely. And so those frequency things are just really good for like making sure that you're firing on all cylinders.
Okay. And that actually reminds me of how, maybe if you can't afford one of these machines or you just want like to start doing this today, you could also go and just literally bare feet to the ground or just lay, on the ground, right? Where your body's touching
Yes,
it and it'll
100%.
exchange those ions, which I've done myself. Like anytime I have like my nervous system, I can just feel is out of whack. Luckily I live close to the beach, so I'll just go and sit, on the sand with my bare feet on the sand, and it's amazing how it can help calm you. And
100%. Yeah, if you are like on a well, I think anyways, budget or no budget, you can be the richest person in the world. You should get barefoot on the earth every single day. Or even if you're in like a city and you need to be on concrete, like concrete's still conductive. Like so there's ways to ground yourself, and it should be on your like to-do list every single day.
every
And
single
preferably when it's either sunrise or sunset. But anyways.
yeah, prefer exactly. But hey, if you just need to take a break from your staring at your computer, go
Yep, no
outside.
doubt.
That's another thing, right? Like just going outside and soaking up without sunscreen. Like again, another thing that they're making money off of, getting people to buy sunscreen, which is essentially toxic. And we're missing out on that like really important sun exposure and vitamin D, which is so critical to our immune systems as well. So just like couple simple things you can do to try to help that terrain in your body. All right. So what did you discover? I mean, I'm sure you discovered a lot, but do you want to highlight some of the main challenges that if someone was doing, working with their regular like allopathic oncologist, and then they want to integrate some of these more holistic approaches, like do you have any recommendations for how they can kind of get their doctor on board, or maybe some tips on what to do when you're trying to do more integrative approach?
Yeah, so my first oncologist like did not have any interest in working with me when it came to integrative.
Okay.
I luckily have a new oncologist, and he came from the Mayo Clinic, and he is super open, which is like surprising to me, but I love that. So he said to me, listen, I'm Indian. My father is Indian, obviously, and he's supernatural, and we don't speak the same language, but we still respect each other. And so I will give you that respect. So he's not heavily involved with my integrative team, but he knows it exists. And I think that what I've learned is I really treated this healing experience kind of like a salad bar buffet. Like I took what I needed and left what I didn't. And so
Mhm.
I don't think like these oncologists that are allopathic, they're basing what they're telling you on statistics and on facts from their world.
Mhm.
And I don't think they're wrong. Like if someone just decided to like not take care of their body, not eat well, just do whatever they said to give them, like don't protect their body in any sort of way, like are in front of their screen all day, in front of blue light all day, like not exercising, like, whatever, we can go on and on and on, then they're probably going to fall into that statistic that they're telling us about. But so he has been really supportive, doesn't really want to know what I'm doing, but says, hey, what you're doing is working. So let's keep going. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't think you should disregard whatever they're saying. They're telling you stuff out of what they have learned. But just don't fall like into the system as a victim. Like
Mhm.
empower yourself so you can use your integrative team and still, dabble in standard of care if that's something that you resonate with or something that you need. But having like just both worlds instead of cherry picking is like I think where magic happens.
Mhm. Oh my God, absolutely. And that's such a good point. Like getting a cancer diagnosis, as horrific as that must feel, it's like taking it as an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going to be empowered to take my health, into my own hands, because in the end, like it's your body, so
Yeah.
yeah, like having our healthcare system definitely has given people a victim mindset, I think, where I have this symptom, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to give me a pill and I need this pill. Otherwise I won't heal, when there's so much that we can do within ourselves to heal ourselves. And sometimes we do need that pill, but a lot of times we probably wouldn't have the symptom if we had been taking better care of ourselves to begin with. So
Yes. Oh, you're
like,
absolutely right.
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in my 20s. And, it used to be called juvenile diabetes because it used to be you would get it in as a child, but more and more adults are getting type 1, and it's an autoimmune disorder. And the standard of care that I got was horrible. And it wasn't until I went to nutrition school to understand, obviously, how the body works and, what, thankfully it was holistic nutrition school. So it was like every single lifestyle factors, nutrition factors that go into it. But it was then that I realized, like, oh, my terrain is what caused this. My immune system attacked itself because I was chronically inflamed. And there's a variety of reasons why we become chronically inflamed, but no one ever told me that. They basically are like, oh, you have a genetic predisposition and, you could have gone your whole life without getting it, but something probably triggered your immune system and this is why you have it. But there was never like, oh, then, looking back at now, I'm like, oh, I was eating gluten, which I'm highly sensitive to. I had all these gut problems. My skin was breaking out all the time. I was depressed. These were symptoms of an inflamed body that I wasn't paying attention to. And it wasn't until I started educating myself on holistic health and lifestyle medicine that I realized, like, oh, wow, I might have been able to avoid this, but maybe not.
Oh, 100%. I think that like any diagnosis, like we talk about epigenetics and in standard of
Mhm.
care, they're gonna say like, oh, like I have the BRCA gene, which is like a precursor for cancer. But if you talk to someone in the integrative world, they're gonna say one, it turns on and off, so it can fire fine at times. But if you're like in chronic stress or you're always enslaved or you're this, that, or this, it's gonna misfire.
Yeah.
But integrative is going to say that that's only like 5%. If you're looking at 100%, circle of how you got cancer, that's only like 5%. So like the
Mhm.
other 95 of like how you're treating your body, what you're putting in it, what you're putting on it, how you're thinking, any disease.
Yeah.
It all falls in the same camp. Just some of them are a little bit more harsher than others.
Yeah. And to that point, I don't think people pay enough attention to what we're putting on our bodies or what we're breathing in. Like, you could be somebody who eats organic and, eats really healthy, but then you're using toxic lotions and sunscreens and maybe your, candles, like all of these things, which not to
Yes.
overwhelm you, because to make changes, to make changes can get a little crazy because you're like, oh my God, I'm being accosted by toxins everywhere. But like, there's simple things that you can start with by like cleaning up, your skincare. And I'm sure actually, I love you post stuff all the time where you're like, these are the things I use, which you turned me on to, what is it? Primally Pure.
Oh, I love them.
I'm obsessed. I'll put them in the show notes. People need
Yeah.
to know about them because they're amazing.
But it's so true. And also I've talked to girlfriends about this who are like on their like non-toxic journey. I don't know if because I was diagnosed, it kind of like opened their eyes to other things, especially because they were like, well, you were living this healthy lifestyle before. But there was so many other like drips in the bucket that like I couldn't work my way out of. But like use the rest of your detergent, because like you've been using it this long, and then replace it, or like use the rest of your Mrs. Myers and then replace it, like or whatever you're using. But like and then there's things like your like candles, air fresheners, plugins, like that's just crap. So like those are things that are worth like maybe it's time to toss those. But like when you're looking at like beauty products and topicals and detergents and stuff, I think it's just tip away. Don't like put yourself in debt, because what if you don't even like the product that you decided to throw away and try something new? It's like just give yourself grace, because it's a big journey, but it eventually just becomes second nature and natural to like buy the right things that are not wreaking havoc on your system.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. As a nutritionist, I have clients do like anti-inflammatory diet protocols. And because to me, it's like, oh, I'm gluten-free, so it's like easy, or like I can read any label really quickly. But like when people start getting into like looking at not the nutrition facts, not what the front of the box says, like what's actually in that food, that packaged food that you're buying, it can be really, really overwhelming. So yeah, I love that. Like just kind of like, slowly integrate it into your life, and eventually it will become second nature. And you're gonna end up saving your body. Like basically, like you had said, the little drips in the bucket. I like to think of it as like your inflammation bucket, and every little drip is filling up that bucket. And we want to try to keep it so the bucket's not overflowing, because that's when your immune system starts to go haywire, and that's when disease can settle in. So just like little changes will go a long way.
A long way.
Okay. Is there anything that you are like wanting people to know 100%? Like if you have just been given a cancer diagnosis, or I mean, I guess in general, that I love that you take this holistic approach to everything, and everything that you're sharing with people doesn't just apply to cancer, it applies to life in general. So is there anything that you feel like people need to really be paying attention to 100%?
Okay, I'm gonna do the two types. So one, if you were just diagnosed with cancer, I don't feel like you need to be the expert right away. Like I'm still learning. People are gonna learn every day something new that's gonna benefit them, or something that they thought it was gonna benefit them, but it's not benefiting them. I just had this conversation with a woman today who was like, do you drink anything with maca in it? And I was like, well, no, because I need to be careful with my hormones. And she's like, oh, I thought that was good. So okay, you just get diagnosed with cancer. The first thing I always say is like, breathe. Like you have to take a breath, because cancer has been growing in your body for like close to 10 years, I'd say. So it didn't happen overnight. It's letting itself be known almost 10 years ago. So when I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, this started brewing when I was like pregnant, which is like crazy, but that's like hormones and emotions and a lot of other things. So just breathe. That's the first thing I always say, just breathe. And then the second thing is get your mind right. And that sounds so easy. Like, get your mind right. Come on, do it. You got this. But But it's so much deeper than that. Like, my mind was never right when I was first diagnosed. My mind was like, okay, I'm going to heal. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to do this for my family. But what I wish I would have done is start working on my emotional wounds right when I was diagnosed, like at the same time, because you'll never heal if you're still like have guilt for yourself or hate towards yourself, or you're still carrying emotions from high school. I don't know, like whatever. Like I mean, I just had a therapy session and I was carrying trauma from when I was 8 years old. So it's like you have to get your mind right. And so when you start to like love yourself and believe in yourself and know that you can truly heal, that's like where magic happens. Um and then next, it's really important to get a team. Everyone kept saying this, and get a team, get a team, get a team. I'm like, what the heck does get a team mean? But it happens. So, you start with your oncologist, and maybe that's not like the person you want as your quarterback, but you have a team. So then you start looking for people that align with you. So maybe you do feel like standard of care is your calling, then an oncologist would be your quarterback. But for me, I knew, okay, I want to do as many natural things as I can do, and I want to do it integratively, and I want to stay true to who I am. So I started finding, doctors. I have a nurse practitioner, I have an acupuncturist, I have someone that does my IVs, and that team communicates. They all know, they all have eyes on my case. It was like this big spider web that organically grew that I never thought would come together, but it did. And it's been my same team for 2 years, minus the oncologist. I'm on my second one. And then, like I said, like become the student, like research, read, highlight books, treat it like a salad bar, see what you resonate with. If you don't resonate with something, move on. Like that's everything in life, right? Like, but cancer specifically, like if you're like, oh, I can't see myself doing a coffee enema, that freaks me out, then move on. There's other things that you can do to support your liver. There's other things you can do to support your detoxification. So those are my things for cancer.
Yeah.
And then if you're in Team No Cancer, I feel like it's really important to like check in with yourself. So those same things, like get your mind right, you should be working on that every single day, whether that's like journaling, seeing help, like seeking professional help, seeking alternative help, whatever that is, like just so you can be right. You want to check in on your stress levels. You want to check in on, and then that's like a big thing. I was like chronically stressed when I was diagnosed. I didn't even realize I was, but like now that I like am on the other side, I'm like, oh my gosh, like holy moly. But I think it's important to like check your stress, check the relationships that you're in, like cut the toxic relationships because they're gonna bring you down. They're gonna bring your vibration down. They're gonna make you more susceptible to get sick. Maybe not even cancer, but any sort of disease. You want to watch good diet, which duh, as a nutritionist, you know that. And like, I always joke and say I'm sober curious because I don't really drink anymore. I mean, like every once in a while, like, oh, let's sip of wine, but like, just like watch yourself. That's not good for you. Um, get with someone who is on the same page as you, because I think getting labs to just check in, check your hormones, check your toxic load, check your detox and like how you methylate those pathways. Like my detox pathways were a freaking mess. I had so many gene stunts that I didn't even know about. And like if you're chronically stressed, they're not gonna fire, right? So then you're just like asking for trouble. And then back to products, just like start checking in on things that like these xenoestrogens that are wreaking havoc on us, on our children. I mean, girls are getting their periods when they're like 10 now. So like just check on that. Like just always have that, always have your eye on the back of your head. Like I think it's really important because unfortunately, like, technology is a blessing and a curse, but things are always attacking us. And so these like foreign estrogens are wreaking havoc on our bodies.
Oh, and I think a lot of people don't realize, like back to the inflammation bucket, it's like these little drips in there and plastic food containers, plastic water bottles, you go to Trader Joe's and if you're buying, any produce there, it's always wrapped in plastic. I mean, everything is in plastic. So while yes, we're all busy and a lot of these things make our lives easier, in the end, having to deal with like a horrible, health issue that's super debilitating isn't easier in the long run. So yes, like start kind of chipping away at that like toxic low so those drips in the bucket become less and less, I think is so important. Because when you say xenoestrogens, I think a lot of people don't even really realize like what that means. It's like these chemicals that basically are going into our body, that our body's then turning into estrogen, and it's throwing our hormones completely in balance or out of balance. And then we end up with all of these wonderful conditions. And I think a lot of times, like, there's scientific reasons why women tend to have more autoimmune disorder and so on, but like we're so sensitive to the stress in the world. And I'm sure it goes back to hunter-gatherer days, maybe. I don't know, where men just like
Yes.
didn't have to.
Actually, I talk about that all the time because people are always like, well, how did your husband handle this diagnosis? And I think that's pretty like underestimated in the sense of like the support groups or,
Yeah.
your support system. And my husband was like calm as a freaking cucumber. Like, I mean, he was like watching our kids, taking our kids to visits, taking them to sports, homeschooling them, cleaning the house, doing the laundry. And I'm like, bro, are you going to combust? He's like, no, I'm totally chill. And
Wow.
it's like, and then I'm combusting,
Yeah.
it's so I think women do kind of have that uphill battle. And then we are more susceptible to illness, whether that's even just like getting sick because of, we're in fight or flight. Yeah. So xenoestrogens, people don't think about, and like forever chemicals. I mean, all these things are coming. Instagram is a beautiful place. It stinks. Sometimes I get like tons of, shall we say, trolls, but like we also get so much useful information that is just so valuable. It's like you could pay $800 to go see a functional doctor and they're going to say the exact same thing that Joe Schmo is saying on her cute little carousel about why you shouldn't use plastic.
Good point. Yeah. That made me think of, when you were talking about fight or flight, and that's another huge issue. And I notice it in myself. And I love that you're like, I came out on the other side. Like, I didn't even realize how stressed I was. And it's like our baseline for stress is like off the charts. So like I'll talk to people and be like, oh, what's your stress level? And they're like, oh, an 8. I'm like, well, that's not okay.
Yeah.
They're like, well, it's fine. I just deal with it. And it's like, well, no, because your body thinks that you're in survival mode. So like, of course you feel terrible, or of course you can't lose weight because of that. I get a lot of women who are looking for like, why can't I lose weight? It's like, well, because you're metabolically unhealthy because your body thinks it's in fight or flight, and it's always prioritized stress over detoxification, over digestion, over losing weight, over hormone balance, like sex hormone balance. Like, it will always prioritize Gian because it's like, we're running from a tiger. Let's make this happen right now. So if cancer does arise or, some other thing is happening in your body, your body will be like, no, I'm running from a tiger. I can't deal with that cancer right now. And then it's like, your cancer's all cool. I'm going to make I'm going to
nest everywhere because you're
I'm gonna make a little
facing a
home.
tiger.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's just such a huge one that we do not pay enough attention to, is like trying to get our nervous systems to just chill out.
Yeah, and there's plenty of tools that you can use. Like, I mean, I've done a ton of alternative care to try to get my nervous system to chill and try to get myself balanced, so to speak. But I mean, back to like free tools, that grounding is going to be super helpful for you. Journaling is going to be super helpful to you. Like having clean, good water and staying hydrated, like all those things actually do help your nervous system. Or like not watching TV at night, or like minimizing your blue light at night. And all these things that we don't actually think about are affecting us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just cut them out, it's like game kinder.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like the scrolling at night. I have so many people who are like, what do you do? What's your sleep hygiene like? Right. So are you sleeping in a dark room? Yeah. Are you turning off the blue light an hour before bedtime? Because that all is stimulating your brain, and it makes you think that it's daytime. And so your body's not going to produce melatonin, which is super anti-inflammatory, like not only to your brain, but to every part of your body, because it helps your body realize that, oh, I'm going to go into detoxification mode. Like now's the time, right? When we're sleeping, when it gets to really focus on detoxifying and healing. But yeah, all of these little things that are just making our nervous system completely out of whack that are a huge reason why so many people, and I feel like women especially, and maybe men, are just like I mean, men are definitely sick too, but maybe they're just like not talking about it as much. But yeah, I feel like women especially are, yeah, we're just overtaxed, especially if we have kids, and so like taking that time to prioritize, which you were forced to do. You have 3 kids. You could have every excuse in the book to not prioritize your own care, and you were forced to by getting a cancer diagnosis. But hopefully, we can help people, do it before your hand is being held to, or your feet are being held to the fire. I just went on and
Yes. No, I know. I'm like, how much more should we talk about? No, I completely agree. And it's every day I've treated this diagnosis still to this day. Every day. It's like today I went to my I woke up, I have like a little altar and I like read, I journal, like um I do like tuning forks, and then I went to my biohacking gym and I did PEMF, and then I did frequency work, and then I did oxygen training, and I came home and I was on my treadmill, and then I did cold plunge, and then I went on a trampoline, and it was like, that was almost like 10 o'clock in the morning, which seems like a lot, but like every day I show up, I treat it like it's like the most important business opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to heal. Like every day, I mean, you have a choice every single day, like what you put in your body, what you put on your body, what you're gonna do to heal I mean, cancer, diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
Crohn's, anything. You have the opportunity to reverse. Like,
Yeah. Maybe
so
not
do it.
type 1 because it is
No, fair,
I'm
fair, fair,
screwed
fair.
on I'm screwed
Two.
on that end, but at least type 2 you could definitely.
Yeah.
But I can definitely I can manage it 100%, a lot better. I'll still always have to take like insulin because my body doesn't make insulin, but I can absolutely manage it better so that I don't get to the point where I have like, I'm losing my limbs because
Right.
I didn't take, or eyesight because it affects your small blood vessels and your nerves. So yes, and that's what I think of it as. It's like I'm thriving with type 1 diabetes. I know a lot of people who aren't thriving with type 1 diabetes because they aren't taking care of themselves. So blood sugar is another really important piece to the metabolic puzzle that is not talked enough about. And another thing that I didn't even realize until going to nutrition school, like everyone should be concerned about their blood sugar. And I love that you wore like a continuous glucose monitor for, was that a month or a couple weeks to check your blood sugars?
I revisited it a couple times just to
Oh,
kind of see
cool.
like what my body, like what certain foods trigger my like a spike or not. I still do like a finger prick here and there just to kind of check in. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think diet, like everyone, that's like a big thing with cancer. Like, what kind of diet do you? Are you plant-based, whole food? Are you this? Are you that? And like I've never resonated with a quote unquote cancer diet. I've always been like, I'm gonna feed my body like what it's craving in the sense of like hunter and gatherer. So like I've done like a lot of pasture raised soy-free corn-free eggs, meat. Like the meat in my freezer right now is like was raised by my girlfriend who treated it like a pet. Like we know its name. Chicken, fish, and then like but I've always, my big thing has been no gluten, no refined sugar, no dyes, which obviously if you're not doing sugar, you're probably not doing dyes. But I'm really mindful of inflammatory oils, and I just really like to keep my blood sugar stable, whatever that looks like. So I'm not like afraid to like have blueberries, but like I am like mindful that like I know a sweet potato is gonna like spike me super big, but that doesn't mean that's gonna happen to everybody. So I just like have learned how my body deals with certain foods, and I've just kept that diet the entire time, and it seems to have worked.
Yeah, I love that they've made blood sugar, those continuous glucose monitors available to anyone. I mean, obviously there is a cost to it, but you only have to do it for a few weeks. I love how, yeah, kind of revisiting it because your body changes so much.
Mhm.
But really being able to see how much our blood sugar fluctuates because of what we eat, our stress level, our activity level, and so on. Because keeping your blood sugar, balanced, of course, there's going to be ups and downs, and that's absolutely normal. But keeping it, within range, is going to go a long way to keeping that inflammation bucket down, keeping your terrain healthy so that your body can actually fight, basically your immune system's in that good place so it can fight off, defend yourself against disease. We went off on a blood sugar tangent there. Near and dear to my heart for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it.
But I think, I guess my point is just that there are so many pieces to the puzzle of staying healthy that you're not necessarily going to get when you go, or really ever, when you go to the doctor. Like, they look at your labs, and I'm generalizing. There's plenty of amazing doctors out there who don't just, do the bare minimum. But from my experiences, I've had doctors where they just looked at my labs. Even now, having diabetes, like, they don't tell me anything about it. Like, I didn't know that my thyroid was looking a little bit high. My TSH was high until I went to my naturopathic doctor friend, and she was like, "Oh yeah, your TH is really high." It's like, wait a second. Why didn't anyone tell me that? I want to get ahead of the problem. I don't want to have to do the intervention if I can get ahead of it and do prevention beforehand. So my point, just all the different things that we can be doing.
No, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. You just,
Yes.
and I don't know if I don't know if you'll ever finish the puzzle just because of the world that we live in. Like, we just live in a pretty toxic world. So if you can protect yourself and kind of like give yourself the armor that you need to lower your chance of any sort of disease, like,
do it.
Game on, right?
Well, and you had mentioned like getting rid of toxic relationships and working through past trauma. I mean, have you ever read the book Your Body Keeps a Score?
That's a good one. That's a really good book.
It's such a good one. It just really makes us understand how, like, things that have happened in your life, we can be holding on to those, and they create this energetic stagnation in our body, and really like lymphatic stagnation. I mean, everything, like when things aren't moving, energy's not moving, lymph isn't moving, toxins aren't being released. You're just creating this environment where disease can fester.
Yeah, that book always makes me look at the cards. Like, you line them up and you push it down, because you can go so deep on that. Like, your fascia is holding it. I literally just did a fascia massage, and she was like, "You have scar tissue that you've been holding on to for like 8 years." And I was like, "Oh," and it's stuff you don't think about. Like, your life just keeps going, but your body has the score. Your body remembers. You might not, but like your body does, and it doesn't let you forget it.
That reminds me, Mel Robbins is another person I
I
love.
love her.
I was listening to one of her coaching calls, and she was coaching, a client through well, what happens when, this person has these debilitating anxiety attacks. And she said she was trying to coach her on how to, when you start to notice that, what are the symptoms when you start to notice that this attack is coming on? Let's try to stop it in its tracks. And one of them was, the woman said, well, I start to feel my throat kind of start to close up, or I get a tightness in my chest and kind of my throat area. And she's like, okay, when you feel that, I want you to be mindful of it. And then, then she gave her deep breathing or whatever, whatever exercise helps that person get through it. But I loved that, because it's so true. We're so out of our bodies so often. It's we just need to be much more mindful and helping ourselves realize what are things that we're feeling when you start to notice that things are starting to go haywire. I guess be more mindful of that, so you can try to slow the process down, not go over the edge.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the Mel Robbins conversation, because just talking to different people, like the throat chakra, when you can't talk, it basically, if you look into it, it's you can't verbalize what you're trying to say. And they say that panic attacks typically can go on from from people are creating that panic attack of whatever you're surrounding yourself with. So if you back to relationships, if it's a bad relationship, they're just catalysts to carry you into a fight or flight. We're having a full circle moment right now. But it's just fascinating. We don't think about it until you're kind of smack dab in the middle of it, and you're like, crap, how do I get my way out of this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just being so much more mindful of everything, getting your nervous system to chill, which is why those nervous system things are so important, because the more you can exercise your nervous system to go in and out of fight or flight, then it's going to be able to do it better on its own as well. You'll be able to Yeah, you won't have to necessarily train it anymore. It'll be like muscle memory for your
Yeah.
nose. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up was water. Oh my gosh. I have so many clients who are like, I don't like, they don't drink enough water, and water's like number one. We need to be drinking, like, we need to be drinking enough water, but also the quality of your water. And I think when people say, oh, I don't like water, it's a red flag to me. Like, well, maybe the quality of water that you're drinking, maybe that's your body innately saying, this is bad water. If you're someone who drinks out of a tap or you're drinking out of plastic water bottles, making sure that we have this high quality water, I think is another really important piece of that 1,000-piece puzzle.
Yeah, I say a lot of things, but I always say like the air you breathe. So that could be having air filters, not having plugins, not having, candles. The water you
Mhm.
drink, you want it to be like mineral rich. You want it to be
Yeah.
like filtered so you're not having fluoride and all that chemical crap in it. And the pans that you cook with, that goes back to like things that can come into estrogen. Like if you're using nonstick pans, oh, that's a rabbit hole we don't need to get into. But using a stainless steel pan or a Lodge can, like, to cook your food is a much better choice.
Yes, the pan thing. It's like, I know that people want ease because it's a pain in the ass to have to, scrub, but all of my cookware is stainless steel and it doesn't take that long.
And it's a learning curve. It's like once you figure it out, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, versus getting all of those horrific forever chemicals that they're putting in the Teflon, in the nonstick. Just another thing that we can do to not say you have to go and get a whole new.
Well, that's why I said Lodge, because Lodge is pretty inexpensive.
Okay.
And you season it with like butter or, ghee or coconut oil or something. And it's kind of like, it's a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. Like when you're ready to invest, you invest in like a stainless steel set. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
you have a
Wait,
Lodge.
what is Lodge?
No, cast iron. Like the
Oh,
black ones.
got it. Okay.
Lodge, Lodge, whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have a cast iron. I've been wanting one, but they're not that cheap. So.
No, you can go to like Lodge, you can get like an unseasoned one on like Walmart for like
Oh, okay.
$30. Like it's
Good.
not,
No.
but you have to season it or else you're in stainless steel sticky land.
I see. Okay, got it. Got it. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I think those are all fantastic tips. We went kind of all over the board there, but hopefully people can get some benefit from some of our recommendations. I think that concludes all the questions I had. Was there anything else that we didn't touch on that you think would be really important to know?
No, I think, well, yes. I just think it's really important to like we've talked about mindset, we've talked about like creating a team, we've talked about becoming a student, but I just think that you have to while you're healing from cancer, like anyway, whatever vehicle gets you to where you want to go, you have to believe that you can heal. Like you have to have the mindset deeper than like I'm gonna have a good attitude. Like you really need to believe to receive. I like the quote, the words you speak are the house you live in, because you literally like can say like I'm gonna kill this cancer, and it's like your body's listening to that. Everyone hears that. Like if you can like change the narrative and say I'm gonna heal from this disease for X, Y, and Z. If you're healing from cancer and you say that, like just watch what happens. Like it's just different when you say things right, things start to go right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. I know. I think a lot of people think like, oh, that's so woo woo, but it's not. It's like our cells literally are not only are your cells reacting to your mindset, but like every part of your body is, if you're in a stressed out mindset, then you're going to be producing hormones that are, reflective of that stressful mindset. So, and all of that is changing the physiology of your body. So, not just on an energy level, but like on a physiological level. Having that mindset is so important. And I'm working on it every day.
I mean, same. It's a giant onion, and we're just killing my earth. And we're probably gonna grab another onion after we're done with our next onion. It's like it's
100%.
life. It's work that's gonna last a lifetime. I think that it's almost like trendy for our generation. Like maybe our parents like think that we're crazy, but like it's become so much more common to like peel that onion and like deal with the generational trauma and deal with your nervous system and deal with the fight or flight. And I think it's a dang good trend that we're taking on.
Yes, I know. I really hope that we have a lot less, degenerative illnesses and cancer and so forth as our generation gets older, and for our children as well. And hopefully we can start changing the way that our healthcare system is and how big pharma rules everything. These are just things that we need to stop these systems from overtaking, because there's so much benefit to everything that we were talking about. And healthcare, the current healthcare system, there's certain things that of course have their place, but there's a lot that they're not getting to the root cause a lot of times, which is really what we're trying to hammer into people. So
yeah, yank the weeds, don't mow the lawn.
Oh, I love that. You have so many good little little sayings. Yank the weeds, don't mow the lawn.
Erinisms.
Erinisms, yeah.
I like that though. I've always said that. And someone was like, "Did you read that somewhere?" I was like, "Actually, no. I just always thought like I don't want to mow the lawn. Like I want to yank the weeds. I want to create this beautiful garden where weeds can't grow again."
Exactly.
So that's
to be fair, weeds are flowers themselves, and they actually, like, dandelion, which is very liver cleansing, is considered
very anti-cancer.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So, I tell my husband, because we have a front yard that's like, it's green because it's been so rainy, but it's like mostly weeds because we haven't done any landscaping. And I'm like, babe, this is a bee sanctuary because there's like all these like dandelions and whatever else random flowers. It's a bee sanctuary.
It's probably all very cancer. Bee venom's very anti-cancer. Dandelion.
Yes.
All these nature things.
Yeah, exactly. We need to be looking around in nature because nature has provided in so many ways that we're just kind of ignoring. So, yes.
Yeah.
Dandelion, add some dandelion tea to your routine. That would be another fit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Erin, I think let's end on that note. Thank you so much for all of your insight. That was so interesting to hear about, what your journey. And I'm so happy to hear you said that. How long has it been since you've been cancer free?
18 months.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Amazing. And do they have a like out of the woods prognosis?
Yeah, so not out of the woods yet. They say at 5 years we can send Christmas cards, which is fine because it's not like it's become a habit. It's become a lifestyle. So it's not like, oh, this is a job. It's like I show up for myself every single day, and it feels good to feel good. People forget that like you're supposed to feel good.
Yes. And it encourages you, right? Like you're like, I feel good, so I'm going to keep doing this because it feels good. Yes,
exactly.
I love that. Yeah, and that's such a good point. Is it's like it's hard at first making these changes, and that's why like don't try to do all of them at once. Like make a plan to start making a small change, once a week or however long it takes. But then eventually it just becomes second nature. So, and then you feel good, and then you're like, I'm going to keep doing this because I feel good. So
yes.
Cool. Oh, that's amazing. All right. Well, thanks again for being here. And I look forward to continuing to watch your stories. Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram only because I'm 38 and too old for TikTok. The Well Wagon.
At the Well Wagon. Okay. Awesome. I've been sharing it with people too because, there's just a lot of really great, valuable information on your Instagram.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I hope it helps to empower you to incorporate simple changes to uplevel your health and wellness. Please like, subscribe, and share to help support the show. For more details about what was covered in today's episode, be sure to check out the show notes. I'd love to connect with you through Instagram, where you can find me at Better Belly Nutrition and at Rogue Radiance Podcast. Until next time, take care and stay radiant.